Ladies and gentlemen, Fortnite OG has officially turned 1 year old. I can't believe I'm saying that because this year has completely flown by. We have made over 100 videos across this channel just about the successes of Fortnite OG and its fails. Today, let's take a look back on all the highs of over 1.3 million players for Fortnite OG's first day, and its lows even reaching 10,000 players shortly after its release. We have built so many great memories over the past year on this channel, so at the end, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe so you can join the journey with us. But over this past year, there have been a few questions to answer. Was bringing Fortnite OG back permanently a mistake? Should Fortnite OG go on to Chapter 2? And also, did Fortnite OG fail? On November 6th, 2024, I checked Twitter and saw that everyone was freaking out. Fortnite OG was announced as a permanent game mode that was coming out exactly a month later. I was shocked at first and thought that they would just continue what they did the previous year with a 1 month long season. But by this point, we were already in Chapter 2 Remix, so I knew it was true. But I was still skeptical about Fortnite OG coming back. Here's the thing, I uploaded my first Fortnite video on this channel, why was OG Fortnite so perfect? And one of the main things that I talked about was exclusivity and nostalgia. I believe that's why Fortnite OG in 2023 succeeded so well and had crazy feedback, because it was just so short. But now that it was permanent, I didn't know how to feel, and even made an entire video on it. Obviously, I got a lot of hate, but it was truly a good question at the time, and it still is. If nothing feels special and we can just go back to any point in time, what's the reason for playing? It's just like the game of life. Think about when you were 12 years old, no responsibilities, grinding Fortnite, not really worrying about what's going on in the outside world. Politics didn't matter, you didn't have to deal with bills or even have a bank account. You just focused on having fun and had to deal with a bit of school. Now, if I could somehow invent a time machine and go back to my childhood for a day or two, it would be pretty fun, but after a while, permanently staying in my childhood, it could get boring. I would miss looking forward to the future, and I would miss achieving goals. So being glued to the past sometimes isn't the best thing. The date was rolling closer, and honestly, I was nervous for the whole of Fortnite. If Epic messed this up, it could completely kill the Battle Royale genre. If you've never played Fortnite, Fortnite Chapter 1 is treated like a sacred artifact in the Fortnite community. No one wants it manipulated at all, even down to the minute details. It was basically the framework that catapulted Fortnite to what it is today. December 5th, 2024, the day prior to the release of Fortnite OG Season 1, we received a trailer and gameplay leaks of the upcoming season. A ton of expected items, weapons, and POIs returned. But what a lot of people were shocked about were the damage values and even the original bugs returning. Pumps had OG damage values with double pump, the Scar had the OG damage sound and damage, and many other iconics did as well. The only problems that people were complaining about prior to release was the movement. See, in Fortnite Chapter 5, Epic Games completely reworked the movement. Yes, there were major additions prior to this as well, such as sprinting and sliding in Chapter 3. But Chapter 5 added a whole new catalog of movement, mantling, the animations, door bashing, and so much more. Fortnite had so many more movement changes than ever before, and people were concerned that it would not fit the Chapter 1 meta because Fortnite Chapter 1 was slow, casual, and simple. The biggest reason for the Chapter 5 movement change, in my opinion, was due to the competitive rise again. Fortnite OG in 2023 completely revived the casual and competitive community, but Fortnite was making so much money off of FNCS and cups that it made sense to make this major change because it added a whole new layer of skill. Also, prior to the release of the permanent OG game mode, Fortnite released Chapter 6, which had many mixed reviews on the gameplay and also the movement. So many Fortnite fans, including myself, were kind of just waiting for Fortnite OG to release, just so that we didn't have to deal with the fast-paced gameplay. But obviously, judging by the trailer, it was basically going to be like the main Battle Royale game with fewer POIs, fewer weapons, fewer heals, and basically just all downgraded fast gameplay. But I was still waiting. We hadn't played the actual game yet, so maybe it would be much different on release.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're in. Fortnite OG. Come here, Stabsy, wait. Oh my gosh, there's double pump.
Fortnite OG Season 1 officially released, and honestly, I was pretty hyped. I didn't really care about the movement, and I think a lot of the reason I was so happy and hyped was that I didn't see Season 1 for over 8 years. The skins were pretty cool in the OG pass, including the Skull Trooper remix, Renegade Raider remix, and also the Aerial Assault Trooper remix. They were pretty basic skins, but the community liked it, because Fortnite OG, again, was basic and simplistic. It felt like a fever dream the first day playing Fortnite OG Season 1. There were over 1.3 million concurrent players on the first day, and it seemed pretty successful. There was no SBMM, no bots, and it felt like a better version of Season 1. Granted, we did not have minis and only used big pots to heal, but it seemed that Fortnite just needed to patch up a few things and the game mode would be retainable through Season X. Also, it was a lot different playing for your life in the game. The weapons did so much damage, you barely had any shield, so 2 taps to the head with the scar, you were dead. I was so tired after my all-night stream, so I just went to bed and slept. But when I would wake up, I wouldn't realize the damage that had been done to Fortnite OG the following day.
So about an hour ago, the data miners and leakers said that skill-based matchmaking was now added to Fortnite OG. So that's all fine and dandy. I'm fine with that. So yesterday when the game first came out, there was no skill-based matchmaking. However, then they updated it again, and now they added bots. So that's where I draw the line. I don't want bots in Fortnite OG. There were no bots back then. Every game was real players. That's what I want.
The player count absolutely tanked, and I mean bad. I looked at Fortnite GG where you can go and see all of the player counts, and we went from 1.3 million players down to now 500k on OG. Now, obviously that doesn't seem too bad because the game mode's permanent. People know they can come back, and obviously there's higher hype at the beginning, so they aren't going to be on the game 24/7. However, it dipped at a very specific point during the day. It wasn't dead hour like 4 AM Eastern time, so I knew something was up. I did a little bit of research and found out that Fortnite had added bots to the game mode. In my mind, I was thinking, what the fuck are they doing? They had such a strong start that all they needed to do was fix some items, minor gameplay tweaks, and also the movement. That was it. A lot of people were happy that they added bots, however, it was just so easy to win, and every game was played so slowly with like no competition at all. The first day of Fortnite OG was super sweaty, but all Epic Games needed to do was either add a no bots game mode or an all bots game mode. It would have been the easiest way to combat the casual players versus the competitive players. I even made an entire video for Epic Games talking about how they could balance out the game mode with a third OG mode. My idea was 0 turbo building, no bots, no SBMM, all classic movement from Fortnite Chapter 1, including the animations, including no sprinting and sliding, no mantling, nothing like that. That's it. If there's no turbo building, no good player will want to play that game mode. Obviously, a lot of the weapons might have to be nerfed, especially later in the seasons like with Season 3 and 4 with the minigun, but at that point, they could just reintroduce turbo building and add some sort of arena or ranked game mode. Instead, on December 13th, they released Fortnite OG Ranked. What a generational flop for Epic Games. I knew this would be a terrible idea for numerous reasons. Number 1, Epic Games needed to tie the nostalgia not tied to ranked or competitive. This was not a competitive meta by any means, and the ranked player count quickly went as low as 2,000 players. I think even lower at some points. It was nearly impossible to hit Unreal, and actually, I think there were multiple seasons where not a single person hit Unreal or even Elite. That's how bad it was. On top of everything as well, after people were complaining about fixes that would take devs under an hour, they decided to release the original Season 1 shop in the item shop. Obviously, I was pretty excited to get them, and the coolest part was playing to get XP to unlock the skins. This gave you a reason to play the game, and after a couple of weeks, I kind of just gave up a bit since the player count dropped to under 100,000 for OG. What you all need to understand is that at that time, I was so new to content. Like literally only a couple of months making videos, so I kind of just felt stuck. But thankfully, after a month on January 21st, Fortnite OG Season 2 was announced, and everyone thought that this would be a major game changer since we had mini shields returning, POIs like Tilted Towers, Shifty Shafts, Junk Junction, and many more unmarked POIs that were necessary for Fortnite Chapter 1. People were pretty hyped. It was safe to say Fortnite OG Season 1 might have not been the best thing for the game mode. Yes, it was very nostalgic for the people who played it during that time, including me. However, not many people played during that time. Fortnite was so new and unpolished, so I think people just got bored. OG Season 1 felt so boring, and with so many new things in OG Season 2, people were hyped. On release, the player count went from 120k all the way back up to 400,000 players concurrently. We saw a Black Knight remix skin, a Sparkle Specialist remix, and also a Cuddle Team Leader remixed. It screamed Chapter 1 Season 2, and personally, I loved the OG pass. The graphics were still a little bit messed up, and this is when a lot of people started complaining about minute things. One being the grass, which if you remember that, it was just, oh my gosh, this went on for months. But whenever it was finally released, people got a true feel for the game mode. However, the player count tanked again. Why? Fortnite OG received another bot overhaul, and I mean bad. Now instead of 50% of players being bots, it was over 80%. Minimum. This meant that the majority of the time, only 20% of your fights would feel special, and you were lucky to get 20% of fights being a real person. Keep in mind, this is also over a month and a half after the ranked release, and the player count was down in the dumps for it. This meant you were basically always forced to play against bots unless you played one game during peak hours for OG. And even then, it just wasn't enough. Something even more sad is that Fortnite OG Season 2 lasted even longer than Season 1. So people just got so bored with the game mode since there were no mid-season rollouts like we saw in Season 1 with the Zapatron. They did re-release the Zapatron for a day in Season 2, but that isn't enough for a game mode that's 2.5–3 months long. Graphical issues, movement, icons, and overall gameplay were still very scuffed. If you're new to my channel, the number of videos I made during the season trying to fix the game mode was absurd. I even gave Epic Games layouts of everything they needed to do in order to revive this game mode and keep it at a consistent point. At this point as well, many people were speculating that Fortnite was intentionally trying to kill Fortnite OG so that they did not have to rely on nostalgia again. And some people still believe this. Also, this was the point where we started to kind of know that the developers working on Fortnite OG were not original developers for Chapter 1 and maybe never even played Fortnite Chapter 1. It was a very odd point for Fortnite as well because their overall player count was down 60+% since the last chapter due to the failure of Chapter 6 and Fortnite OG. I saw a huge hit on my channel during this time, and there was like zero interest in Fortnite OG. It was really that bad. You might notice I use a lot of my channel to see if there's any interest in Fortnite OG because that is the main thing I upload on this channel. If my channel is doing bad, Fortnite OG is doing bad. There's not much more to talk about with OG Season 2. Again, we saw that one update with the Zapatron returning for like an hour again, but it was just so random. But that's like the only thing we really saw. Fortnite OG hit the point where it wasn't even breaking 100,000 players a day. What's even worse is that Fortnite OG Season 3 was announced, but there were only complaints. The OG pass was absolute garbage. I think we can all agree on this. We had a Raven remix skin, a Rex remix skin, and also an Astronaut remix. It didn't really fit OG Season 3, and the worst part, they didn't even add the infamous John Wick as a remix skin. This was Fortnite's biggest flop of a season and a huge turning point to the downfall of Fortnite OG. The key art was weird, the trailer was even more odd, and I really don't have anything more to say, and it's sad because Season 3 was one of the most loved seasons of Fortnite Chapter 1. However, it just got so much hate the second time around, and it could have been prevented so easily. The player count only went down after launch, which we have never seen before in any Fortnite game mode, and only a month after the release, the game mode couldn't even hit 50,000 players. We went from Fortnite OG in 2023 having over 3 million concurrent players to now 1/100th of that. It made me so sad. I almost quit my channel and moved on to creating other channels because I thought it was over. Fortnite OG was dead. No one cared, including the creators of OG themselves. Even the 50 versus 50 LTM was garbage. Want to know why? It had mainly bots in the game mode. The only thing that they should not have added was bots. It was meant to be fun and played with real people, but I had hope in the back of my head. I knew that Fortnite could come back from this because there is something about the rest of the seasons that Season 3 and before does not have: the storyline. People started making theories prior to the release of Fortnite OG Season 4. What would Epic Games do for the story? Will it be the same? Or will it be different? Fortnite did fix some things in OG Season 3, such as some of the weapon models and sounds, but the biggest problem that people complained about was the grass. The grass was not OG, and I contribute a lot of the failure to that. And also, the bots. Fortnite OG Season 4 was announced a couple of months later, and the player count did not shift at all. There were maybe 20,000 more concurrent players on launch, but that's about it. At least Fortnite OG was actually growing in some sort of way. But it was still sad seeing that people maybe didn't even care about the story because that was something that carried Fortnite Chapter 1. For this OG pass, we got an Omega remix skin, a Tilted Technique remix skin, a Visitor remix skin, and overall, it was an amazing OG pass. Way better than Season 3. I did some digging around the OG pass skins through the menu and saw something a bit peculiar about the Visitor. Obviously, he was a remix skin, however on his title it says Reality Unknown. This means he was not the original Visitor, and also this might not even be the original Chapter 1 map. Could this mean that he is here to change the course of the storyline? The gameplay for Fortnite OG Season 4 was a lot better. There were some things like the OG double pump still in the game, some icons were wrong, and damage wrong that people were kind of mad about. But overall, the gameplay was good. We also got the reintroduction of shopping carts, which was really fun to see, pop rocks which were semi-broken, and consumables on the ground. Fortnite OG started to feel like Fortnite Chapter 1. It seemed like we were going in the right direction, and a lot of people were excited. Also, they decided to finally take out the god-awful ranked mode.
Like this cookie? Oh, well, this cookie's junk! I like a cookie.
Because they were working on something even cooler, and something that fit the Fortnite OG community way more. A third OG game mode. I was so happy to see this. This meant that it at least had to do something with the matchmaking and bots, because the majority of the reason people did not play Season 3 was the bots. But something even bigger was announced that many people were excited for. The live events. Fortnite OG Season 4 would have the rocket launch event just like how it was in 2018. There was so much build up for this event, and many people were waiting to see if the storyline would actually change. And this would be a big way to bring a ton of more people back to the game mode. The day of the event finally rolled around, and Fortnite OG quickly hit 1 million concurrent players. It felt like this was a very reviving point for Fortnite OG, but Epic Games really needed to show that there was a reason to play this game mode. The event started, and immediately something was different. A red butterfly flew around everyone and then eventually went into the rocket. Once the rocket launched and made its original course, it created a red rift in the sky instead of the notable blue one. There were a lot of mixed opinions on whether the storyline change was good. In my opinion, it was the best thing for the game mode. See, it was subtle, simplistic, and if it were all the same, the hype would have been stale. The player count would have only been good during the live events, and there would have really been no talk in the community about the future of Fortnite OG. Fortnite OG Season 5 was announced with a pretty cool trailer, like one of the best OG passes we've seen as well since launch. There was a Sunstrider remix skin, a Drift remix skin, and a Redline remix skin. Epic Games really stepped it up this season with the fixes, and there were also hints that Kevin the Cube might actually not be spawning on the map and could be replaced by another entity. The hype for Season 5 was wild, and this was probably one of the best months since the launch of Fortnite OG, and it seemed that things were actually really starting to pick back up again for the game mode. The player count kind of steadied out, and Fortnite OG at this point, unironically, was pretty niche. And new creators started to rise trying to fix the game mode, with many of the bugs still being present. One of those creators is by the name of AliJax. I personally found AliJax and started using him as my main Fortnite OG leaker during Season 5. He only pretty much leaks Fortnite OG stuff, so if you're watching this video while Fortnite OG is still out, even if it's not, make sure to go drop him a follow over on X/Twitter, because he's a pretty cool guy. But he goes over every, and I mean every single issue in Fortnite OG every single season, creating a huge, and I mean huge, pace spin on exactly how to fix it. Why has Epic Games not hired him to the development team? I don't know, but he is damn good at what he does. After months of no response from Epic Games about Fortnite OG, AliJax received a response from Fortnite Status on his Fortnite OG Season 5 thread. They responded, "Hey AliJax, huge thanks for putting this all together in one spot. Your pace spin was so helpful. A bunch of these bug fixes were already lined up for this next update, and we've marked several more for investigation. See you in OG. Thank you so much for playing." People were celebrating. Everyone thought that Fortnite OG was finally getting fixed since it was confirmed by Fortnite itself. After a few days of Ali's tweet, the cube was planned to spawn. Everyone was pretty excited to see the return of Kevin the Cube and watch his path once more. Once the cube spawned, it was red? The cube was different this time around, and his name was now Revan Daniel. I don't even know. Honestly, the community, it was so bad this time around at naming the cube, but this was odd. Why was the cube red? Was it because of the red rift in the sky? Or was it something much more that we just had to wait and see? The cube finally reached Loot Lake, and the path and course were the exact same as Kevin's. However, the cube was just red. People didn't understand the reason for the red cube, and would the cube island be red this time, or would it just be a waste of time? After the cube event and things started to kind of settle down, the community started to bring up the topic of the Fortnite status tweet. Where were all the fixes? We saw minor, and I mean very minor hot fixes, but the majority of the hot fixes were for the weapons that were not even in the game. The community started to get really frustrated and scared, because in only 2 seasons was the biggest season in Fortnite's history, and the most nostalgic, Fortnite OG Season 7. If Epic Games didn't start fixing the game mode in Season 6, the game mode could be doomed. The night of Fortnite OG Season 6 was upon us, and many people were excited because this was when we could see the Cube Island rise again. And many people thought Epic Games would stick to their promise about finally fixing Fortnite OG. The game mode was released, and the trailer was... Wait, where was the trailer? They could have just been late, right? Why is there no trailer? No promotion. Nothing. Fortnite only promoted OG Season 6 once, and this was after the day of its release. Fortnite OG fans were angry, and to be honest with you, it was pretty reasonable. I myself was as well, and it was because of content creation. Take it from my standpoint. Why would anyone create content on a game that is unreliable, not communicative towards its players and creators, and can't even fix simple things? Right as you loaded up the game as well, the Cube Island was in the sky. However, it was the original cube, the purple cube. Did they just forget about the red cube? The community was very agitated at Epic Games. Even more outrage arose towards their developers and even creators. The OG Pass this season though was, I can't lie, it was pretty fire. We had a Calamity remix skin, Dire remix skin, and a DJ Yonder remix skin. This was probably the most loved/hated OG season by far, but I personally loved it because of the cube monsters and the divots to trick shot off of. It was a very movement heavy season, and the grapplers from season 5 with hunting rifles and quad crashers, also with the new movement, it actually worked and it was pretty sick. Speaking of quad crashers as well, Epic Games finally released an update of the OG quad crashers that could fly, which was pretty cool. But the community was still angry at the fact of the failed communication from Fortnite status. Another OG season, another Ali Jax thread. Ali Jax made another pay spin for Epic Games. However, there was no response again until people finally just started spamming Fortnite. I guess it worked because Fortnite status responded again with a tweet that read, "We've seen your feedback coming in towards the end of OG Season 5, and Season 6 fell a bit short of the classic Fortnite experience we all remember. Let's talk about some things we're doing." They then go on to list multiple things that they are changing with the game mode to make it feel more classic. Some of these were pretty good, including the storms, weapon balances, fog, and many more. It seemed that Epic Games was actually on top of Fortnite OG, even Fortnite status pinning this tweet on their page, and even the CEO of Fortnite talking about OG on his Twitter. It only took them 10 months, but it was better than nothing. The thing that annoyed people the most, including me, was the fine print at the bottom. Keep letting us know what feels true to OG. Whenever they posted their tweet, at the bottom of it, literally they put it right at the bottom. It says, "Keep letting us know what feels true to OG." What the f does that even mean? Yeah, I was pretty angry when I saw this just because it was the fact that they had all of Ali Jax's tweets and an entire pay spin of what everyone has wanted for the past, like, 7-8 months. No joke, it was the easiest fix. As time moved on, there was a build-up over the butterfly event. Will we finally find out what happened to Rev in the Cube, or will we have to wait and see until Season X? We were transported into the event, and we immediately saw Rev in the Cube right in front of us, infecting the 0 point. The rumors were true. It seems that Kevin actually had a reason, and not only the Fortnite OG storyline, but maybe possible ties to the main chapter storyline, which led to many more theories about Rev in the Cube and Kevin the Cube actually fighting to regain power near the 0 point. It was cool how Fortnite played this out, and it really goes to show that you should not judge Fortnite too quickly. Also, during the season, we saw red nitro cubes instead of the purple shadow stones. A lot of people didn't really like it, and I personally understand why. However, it was pretty cool, running pretty fast, but they quickly got nerfed very hard. One other compliment that a lot of people were talking about for Fortnite was it was nice that Season 6 correlated to October and fit its time of year, and I was personally really happy to see a lot of decorations on the map with Fortnitemares and OG, which means Epic Games must be planning something even bigger for OG Season 7 for Christmas. Some of the weapons were even broken to its original values, like the heavy assault rifle, dealing an insane amount of damage just like the old days. Even Ali Jax and other creators like myself were talking about just how good the gameplay was for Fortnite OG Season 6. And it was pretty shocking because, as you all know, Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 6 is one of the most least liked Chapter 1 seasons ever. This season lasted a while, and it seemed that people started to get bored because it was planned to last until December 11th. Everyone was waiting for Fortnite OG Season 7 to come out, and the player count just kind of stayed the same up until November 29th. 29th. On November 29th, Fortnite had its update for Chapter 7. A lot of new items were re-released, new mechanics released, and people were pretty happy. Revan the Cube even tried to defeat the Dark Presence to try and regain the island. After all, Fortnite OG did have a tie with the main storyline, which made a ton of people happy. But when everyone loaded their game to play OG, they realized something. Fortnite OG was gone. You couldn't play OG till the 11th, and it was gone for 12 days. This is the first time in history that Epic Games cut an OG season short without even giving the audience a heads up. Did this mean they were focusing less on OG, or was it to prepare for OG Season 7 and polish the game mode? Fans were outraged because they didn't have enough time to play for their win umbrella. They were promised 12 more days of OG Season 6, and it felt like Fortnite was just promoting Chapter 7 and leaving OG in the dust. But Fortnite had a new idea that would be actually the best idea for this OG season, because what was about to happen next for the game mode would completely change the direction and the hype for the entirety of Fortnite OG. The night of Fortnite OG Season 7, Epic Games teased multiple key art leaks, OG pass leaks, secret styles, weapon leaks, and they were marketing the game mode like crazy. The hype for the season was nuts. For starters, no one has played Fortnite OG for 2 weeks. This was arguably one of the biggest seasons in Fortnite's history, and the pass was good. The release was even crazier, with 200,000 concurrent players playing for the first couple of days, and numbers rising each day. It's safe to say that Fortnite OG had pretty much redeemed itself, even competing with the main Chapter 7 game mode. Over the past year that Fortnite OG has been released, we have had obviously some pretty high highs and many low lows, but the journey has been the best part about it. Reflecting on this first year of Fortnite OG, the biggest thing is the communication of Fortnite. We need more communication or the game mode is going to fail. The game mode should stay in, as it obviously gets a ton of retention, and it's safe to say OG Season 7 is one of the peak times of Fortnite. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below what Epic Games should change for Fortnite OG and how much you enjoyed this first year. I understand it was a pretty rocky start, but it seems like we're in a pretty good position now. Again, make sure to sub to the channel if you enjoy Fortnite OG and want to see more content like this. Anyways, guys, it's been your boy Tricky, and I'm out. Peace.